Hey everybody, Scramble here with some more War Thunder gameplay showing another simulator battle event. So in this video I will fly the P-36 Hawk in the Pearl Harbor event. My opinion on this event is a bit divided. There are some things I really like about it, but also some things that impress me less. One of the things I really like about this event is the takeoff under fire with all the AA firing. I think that's pretty cool and adds a lot of atmosphere, something I would not mind seeing more often in future events. In general, I think this event with the dive bombers to take out as a primary objective and the focused action feels a lot more like, well, a real event, while a lot of the others are often just the normal maps from the queue with a limited plane set. So those elements I would love to see more often in an event. Now, what I was less impressed with was the balance in this event, as is often the case with events. I think the event worked well enough with the full number of players, but does not scale well with fewer players. Now in the event we got P-40s, P-36 and DVD dive bombers as well as Catalinas for the US team and Zeros, D3As and B5Ns for the Japanese. The US team has the numerical advantage for players, and uneven team sizes is something I don't like a whole lot, as you know. But in this case it is partially countered by the large number of AI bombers which the US team has to engage, and engage quickly if they want to win the match. I think that is actually nice to have that objective, but I think it is also hard for the US team to coordinate this properly, as the team needs to do two things. Enough players have to attack the AI bombers to keep them from destroying the fleet and end the game. But they will be very vulnerable to attack and easy pickings for the Zeros, so there also need to be enough players ready to go for those Zeros and keep them busy long enough. The US team, I would say, has certainly enough players to do that, but again, coordinating this properly is the problem. After all, it is a public event, so the tools for communications are limited, especially once the fight has started. I think that makes it somewhat hard for the US team to get enough of the AI bombers down in both waves to save enough of the fleet and win the match. I think that can be a bit frustrating, however of course also somewhat realistic as the attack on Pearl Harbor was a success. That is why I would like it if there would be more options after a match has ended in events, other than win or lose. I think it would be nice to have more options for a partial success or a partial defeat in events, based on the actions of the team, like how many players survived in the end, how many planes were shot down, how many primary objectives were completed, and also how many secondary objectives. And based on all that, a mission could be a total success, a partial success, or just satisfactory, or some degree of a defeat. I think that would be more fun, and I think that would make a lot of planes more useful in some events. For example, flying a SPD dive bomber in the Midway event and sinking a cruiser currently means pretty much nothing, but with another system that could count towards a successful mission and maybe turn a satisfactory outcome into a successful one. Something I think about suggesting. But for now, back to Pearl Harbor. Let's talk quickly about the P-36 before we take a look at some fights in it. Now the P-36, the G in this event for some reason, is of course the predecessor of the P-40, however with some major differences. First of all, the plane is a lot lighter than the P-40 and it has of course a radial engine instead of the P-40's inline Allison engine. So the P-36 is aerodynamically inferior because of the big radial engine in front, which keeps its top speed low. However, this radial engine is still as powerful as the P-40's Allison, even more powerful in the G, at least on lower altitude. So with similar horsepower but being much lighter, the P-36 has a much better power loading than the P-40 and the edge in level acceleration to a certain point and in climb rate. It won't dive as well than a P-40 though. Also, because of the light weight, it has a decent turn radius and a decent energy retention in turns, and it's also decent in vertical maneuvers. The roll rate is disappointing though, in my opinion worse than it should be. So against a Zero, hit and run attacks are advised, because the P-36 does not have many advantages over the Zero it can use to get the upper hand. If its roll rate were better, it could use that, but as it is, you don't want to engage a Zero in a prolonged fight. Having an altitude advantage helps of course, but you won't always be able to get one, especially in this event where you have to act fast to take out the AI bombers or to protect those that do. there just isn't always time to get back in a perfect attack position above enemy planes. Something I like actually, as pilots in reality did not always have that luxury either. I often had to try to lose Zeros diving to the deck and try to lose them in a low-level flight. Thanks to the chaos and all the things going on in this event, it seems to be easier to get away this way. Well then, let's take a look at 2 more rounds of the Pearl Harbor event. As I've said before, I think it is important to attack the AI bombers quickly. However, if everyone is doing it, it is easy for the Zeros to just pick everyone off, so some should also stay out of it till the Zeros arrive to hopefully keep them at least somewhat busy. And that is what I usually try to do, as I think most others go for the AI bombers. So this was the first match I played in this event, and I tried to stay a bit behind and above the attacking group of dive bombers, as I see a Zero coming in from the front. I get some hits head on and I hope I did enough damage to take the Zero on, so I come around, but no such luck, he is still fine, so when he comes around I turn into him, and then when we merge I start to dive away. I hope this gives me a bit of an edge and I can increase the distance sufficiently in case the Zero follows me. And there's also a P-40 nearby that can go after him should he do so. But it seems the Zero does not follow me in the dive, so I pull out of it, and immediately I see some more fighting going on to my front. So I move there to help out. I can spot some Japanese tracers which I move towards. And as I get closer it turns out it is a Zero chasing a P-40. I hope I can get there in time to get the Zero off the tail of the P-40, and I try to go for a deflection shot, hoping I might get a hit and maybe scare the Zero off the tail of the P-40. But sadly my shots don't connect and I can't save the P-40. I follow the Zero, which is now pulling up, and I hope to get some hits in before he starts to pull maneuvers I can't follow in my P-36. But again my deflection shots don't really hit the mark, and I start to lose speed in this climbing turn, and I don't want to wait too long here to disengage. There's a P-40 coming up from behind, and I figured that is a good time to disengage, as I hoped the Zero is focused on the P-40 shooting in his direction. The Zero however also stopped climbing and came back down at the same time I did, and almost gets a shot at me as he passes me. However, after he passed me, his turn is not very aggressive, so I figure I can go on the offensive again and try to get behind him again, especially since the P-40 is now coming down also and taking up some of his attention. The Zero passes the P-40 and then zoom climbs again. I hope I might be able to get a shot at him while he slows down as he goes up. But before I can do so, the Zero turns to the right and dives towards a fight on lower altitude, and me and the P-40 follow. Now in the dive the P-40 of course accelerates faster than me, so he eventually gets closer to the Zero than me. The Zero has spotted another P-40 and is going for him. But then he spots me and the P-40 closing in from behind, and he evades by turning hard to the left and downwards. I figure I can't follow his turn, and instead I go up in a high yo-yo. I want to attack him from above as he blasts below me. But as I do so, I can see another Zero below me on the tail of yet another P-40, so I switch targets and go for the newcomer. He is turning to the right as I come down, and I hope I can get a deflection shot on him, but I just have bad luck today with those, and my shots pass just below him. However, I have enough energy from my dive, and the P-36 is decent when it comes to vertical maneuvers, so I go up again, and as the Zero turns around again and comes back, I can dive down on his tail. Here I make a mistake though. I'm too focused on getting good hits and I assume I get the kill here, but I don't, and I overshoot instead of doing a barrel roll in time. I could have easily prevented that from happening if I would have gone up in a barrel roll just a split second earlier, as I usually do in such a situation. So I have to dive away. But since I can't spot or hear the Zero anymore soon after, I figure he broke off and I come around trying to find him or somebody else again. But as I do so I can hear another plane close by again, and then I hear the Zero fire again, so he is still there. And I have to take evasive action again. Outturning a Zero won't work, so I try to fly low between buildings and ships in the harbor and hope I present a difficult target this way. As I do so I can spot a P-40 coming in and I adjust my heading towards him. I hope the P-40 coming in from the front will force the Zero to break off. I keep moving away a bit to fly between the palm trees on the beach if necessary, but As I look back, it seems the Zero did indeed give up its chase. I can't see any AA fire nearby, so I can come around and go on the offensive once again. The AAA seems to focus on a spot over the harbor, so it is safe to assume that there is at least one enemy plane there. And indeed, as I get closer I can spot multiple planes, and one of them is a Zero. I don't know if it is the same one from earlier, but it is a Zero, and he is turning after a SPD dive bomber that is coming in from the other direction. He turned pretty tight, and I come around in a high yo-yo to get on his tail while he is focused on the SPD. And I get into fire position behind the Zero, and this time I finally get some good hits on the Zero, and he turns to the left. I go up again, planning to attack from above should he come around, but it appears my fire damaged him sufficiently that he goes down. Now, that was the last enemy plane close by. There are still others up though. However, while all of this was going on, the second wave of AI bombers got close, and I don't manage to reach them or find another enemy plane before they destroy the fleet and end the game. So this is it for this round. Let's take a look at the second one. As last time, I want to attack the Zeros when they arrive, to hopefully buy the planes going for the bombers some time. This time I climbed a bit higher at the start to have a bit of an energy advantage when the Zeros arrive. I also want to try to make this hit and run thing work better than the last time. I spotted some planes diving towards the swarm of bombers, which I assumed were Zeros, and started my dive as well. And as I get closer I could see a Zero going for a P-40, and I wanted to get behind him. The Zero breaks to the left though. And I don't want to waste energy following in a horizontal turn myself, so I use the speed from the dive to pull up and then go in a wing over to the left, and then dive after this Zero. So I can get a bit of a speed advantage over him, and I slowly get closer. If I would have just turned after him horizontally, I would have lost a lot of speed, and if the Zero would have kept up its turn instead of leveling out, I could not have followed the better turning Zero. This way, if he would have kept up the turn, I could have attacked from above. But he did level out, and I can sneak up on him and get some hits in. He dives away, and I don't want to follow directly for the same reason, and there's also another Zero right in front of me attacking a P-40 which I can go for. The P-40 snap rolls his plane, and the Zero pulls up as he threatens to overshoot. I pull up after him and spray him a bit as he slows down. It's hard to keep the nose steady pointing up like that though. The P-36 is not the most stable gun platform in the game. Now the Zero gets his nose down and starts to turn while descending again. I don't want to turn after him as he could simply outturn me. Instead, I keep my nose pointed up. I want to do a hammerhead and then hopefully come down on him if he keeps his turn up and ends up below me. I have trouble keeping track of the Zero through the clouds, but when I come back down again, I can see another Zero on the tail of a P-40, and I dive down on them. I level out behind the Zero and start attacking him. Now, normally I would have preferred in this situation to just go full power as soon as I'm leveled out, do one attack and then soon climb up using the speed I have built up in the dive. But I want to get the Zero off the P-40, so in this case I throttle back and try to get him off the friendly plane's tail. The Zero takes hits, but it takes a while to convince him to stop attacking the P-40. But after some more hits he finally takes evasive action. Now, as before, I don't want to turn with him, so as soon as he starts to come around in a tighter turn, I level out and move away in a slight descent. If he comes all the way around to get behind me, he should not be fast enough to follow me, at least not for a while. However, the Zero moves back in the other direction, so I come around as well. It appears the Zero moved towards a plane on the other side of the canal, and there are a few other fighters as well. As I get closer, it turns out that there are two Zeros attacking a SPD dive bomber, and another P-40 is also close by. So I go there hoping to get the Zeros off the tail of the SPD. It seems though the SPD dive bomber does not need much help. He lights one of the Zeros behind him on fire, and the P-40 gets the second one only moments later. Now the Zero that was attacked by the P-40 goes down pretty fast, but the other one did not. It appears he turned around and moved past me somehow, but I have trouble spotting him again for a bit. But eventually I can see him moving away over the base on the main island. He is pretty low, but since I saw no other threats at this point, I descended a bit to gain some speed and eventually catch up with him. This time I get some decent hits and the Zero gets lit on fire a second time. And this time it's enough and he goes down. Now, Since I'm pretty low now, I move away a little bit before I turn around to get at least a little bit of altitude back before I return into the fight. As I come back, there's only one Zero nearby and enough friendly planes are around him, so it's only a matter of time for him. However, in the excitement I forgot about the second wave of AI bombers again, and now there is not much I can do about them anymore. I could not climb up to them to make a big difference at this time, especially since I am out of 50 caliber ammo and I have only the 30s left. So again, we sadly did not manage to get enough of them down in time to win the match. That's what I meant at the beginning. It is hard in this event for the US team to properly organize its assets to deal with both the players and the AI bombers in time, even though there would be enough planes to do it. Still, I think in this match I could better realize my idea about hit and run tactics that I had planned for the P-36 in this event than I managed to do in the last game, and I hope I could explain my thought process a bit while doing so. Overall, I have to say, even though it was not my most successful event, I did enjoy it quite a bit, and it has quite a few elements that I would like to see in other events as well, like the very atmospheric takeoff for example, and having the AI bombers as primary target is in my opinion nice as well. It focuses the action a bit, and it also forces you to modify your tactics a bit, as you very often just don't have the time for the safest approach. So you often just have to mix it up a bit in planes like the P-40 and the P-36. Now, I'm not saying that this is what I would want for every event, but having it every now and then in a few events like this Pearl Harbor one is nice, I would say. Just, the balance needs a little bit of work in my opinion, but that could be said for a lot of events we currently have. Well, and this is it for this video. As always, I hope it was entertaining, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.